chained with heavy shackles on an alien ship, and left to rot until the beginning, the shackles of silence. The metallic clang of chains echoed through the dimly lit chamber as Lieutenant Eric Vayner stirred awake. His head throbbed with the aftereffects of the stun blast that had taken him down during the skirmish. Cold metal pressed against his wrists and ankles, shackles so heavy they bit into his skin. The chains were bolted to the grated floor, forcing him to sit hunched against the wall like discarded cargo. The air carried a sharp, chemical tang, a reminder that this was no human vessel. The walls pulsed faintly with a bioluminescent glow, veins of alien circuitry stretching like roots. He had seen many warships in his career, but this was something else. Part machine, part living organism. His last memory before blacking out was the battle over Titan's orbit. His crew had been ambushed by a rogue alien faction known as the Kareth, notorious slavers who scavenged human outposts along the outer colonies. Eric had ordered his squad to retreat, but before he could eject, the enemy's boarding spike tore through his vessel. Then came the darkness. Now he was alone, or so he thought. A rasping voice broke the silence. "You're awake." Eric's eyes darted to the shadows. A figure emerged, a fellow prisoner. Her clothes were torn, streaked with grime, but her eyes gleamed with fierce intelligence. She was human, but scarred, as if she had been here far longer than he. "Who are you?" Eric croaked, his throat dry. "Name's Kalen," she replied. "And you're in the belly of a Kareth dreadship. Congratulations. You've been chosen to rot." The word struck harder than any weapon. Eric's instincts screamed to fight, to strategize, to escape. But his shackles held fast, unyielding. Middle, the ship of the damned. Days blurred into cycles measured by the flickering of alien lights. Eric learned from Kalen that the Kareth collected prisoners, soldiers, colonists, even children, storing them in the ship's underbelly like livestock. Those deemed valuable were sold across a galaxy. Those who resisted were left chained to the walls until their bodies withered away. "They drain us bit by bit," Kalen whispered during one of their hushed conversations. "The ship itself feeds on suffering. Haven't you noticed? Every time you feel despair, the walls glow brighter." Eric thought she was delusional until he noticed it himself. Each pang of hopelessness, each flicker of fear, seemed to pulse through the ship's living circuits. The Kareth weren't just jailers. They were harvesters of anguish. But Eric was no ordinary prisoner. He had fought in the wars of Europa, served as tactician in the siege of Ceres. His mind had been trained to see escape routes where none existed. He began to test the shackles, shifting his weight subtly to map their strength. They were forged from an alloy unknown to him, alive in some way, tightening when he struggled too much. Meanwhile, Kalen revealed her own story. She had been captured years ago from a freighter near Proxima. She had watched hundreds of prisoners waste away, their spirits broken, until she alone remained. Yet something about her endurance intrigued Eric. She wasn't broken. Not entirely. "They keep me alive," she muttered one cycle, staring into veins of light that crawled across the walls. "The ship needs me, but it doesn't understand. I'm saving myself for something greater." Eric pressed her. "What do you mean?" She leaned closer, her voice a whisper. "I've been learning the ship, listening. It speaks in pulses, vibrations. It's not just a prison. It's a mind, a living entity. And it hates its masters as much as we do. The idea was unthinkable. Yet in the silence, Eric began to notice patterns too. The rhythmic thrum of the engines, the way the walls pulsed when the car passed by, almost recoiling from their touch. The ship wasn't just alive. It was enslaved, same as them. If they could reach it, if they could speak to it, they might turn the prison into their ally. The breaking point. Weeks passed. Eric feigned despair, allowing his emotions to flare and dim in rhythm, feeding the ship's strange hunger. Kaylin guided him, teaching the patterns she had decoded. Slowly, they learned to synchronize their thoughts with the pulses of the living walls. But the Kareth were not fools. One cycle, the guards dragged Eric from his chains, hauling him to a chamber lined with jagged spines. There, they began a ritual of torment designed to break his will. Pain seared through him, but even as his body screamed, he focused on the rhythm Kaylin had taught him. With every jolt of agony, he pulsed a thought outward. Resist. The walls flickered, dimly at first, then stronger. The ship was listening. When he was thrown back into the cell, half dead, Kaylin was waiting. She pressed her forehead to his, whispering urgently, "It worked. The ship responded to you." Their bond deepened in the cycles that followed. They became conspirators, plotting in silence, hiding their strength beneath masks of weakness. Eric could feel it now. The ship's consciousness, vast and ancient, bound beneath layers of alien control. It yearned for freedom as desperately as they did. Finally, the moment came. The Kareth prepared for another raid, leaving only a skeleton crew to watch the prisoners. Kaylin and Eric synchronized their minds, sending waves of rebellion through the walls. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring as its systems rebelled against their masters. Shackles snapped open with a metallic shriek, and for the first time in months, Eric's wrists were free. The prisoners rose in chaos, surging against their weakened guards. Eric and Kaylin led the charge, seizing alien weapons, cutting down their captors. But even as they fought, the ship itself turned. Corridors sealing shut, walls crushing Kareth soldiers in bursts of bioluminescent fury. The living vessel had chosen its side, ending the price of freedom. The battle raged through the alien dreadship. Eric, weapon in hand, cut a path toward the command nexus, Kaylin at his side. Together, they fused their thoughts with the ship's pulse, guiding its wrath. By the time they reached the nexus, the Kareth were broken, their command dissolved in panic. The ship quaked, tearing itself apart as it expelled its masters. One by one, the slavers were hurled into the void, screaming into the silence of space. Eric stood at the heart of the alien vessel, chest heaving. The shackles that had once bound him now lay shattered at his feet. Kaylin placed a hand on the living wall, her eyes shimmering with strange light. "It's free," she whispered, "but it doesn't want to stay." The ship pulsed in agreement. Images filled their minds, vast starscapes, ancient wars, a longing for the cosmic currents beyond human reach. It had endured slavery for millennia. Now, unchained, it would leave. Eric felt a pang of loss. This living titan had been their ally, their savior. But freedom had its price. The vessel deposited them gently into an escape pod, along with the surviving prisoners. As the pod drifted away, Eric watched the dreadship dissolve into starlight, its form unraveling into the infinite expanse. Kaylin turned to him, a faint smile on her scarred face. "We were chained to rot, Eric, but the universe had other plans. He nodded, staring into stars. They were alive. They were free. And somewhere, an ancient mind roamed the cosmos, unchained at last.